It is 7 p.m. This is a regular meeting for February 11th, 2025. Steve, can you take the roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Galise.
Here.
Mr. Gasparini.
Here.
Councilman LaForgia.
Here.
Mr. Waldron. Mr. Spila.
Here.
Mr. Perino.
Here.
Mr. Palafonte.
Here.
Mr. Dutcher.
Here.
Chairman Cafone.
Here. Can we please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this time and date of this meeting was posted in the lobby of the municipal building and delivered to the Star Ledger and the Progress newspaper. No case will be heard after 11 p.m. I don't think we have to worry about that tonight. We have an approval of the minutes for January 14th, 2025, the organizational meeting, and January 14th, 2025, the regular meeting. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Perino.
Aye.
Mr. Palafonte.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Chairman Cafone.
Aye. Can I remind everybody to put their mics on for Jennifer? I don't know if everybody has their mics on. We have a memorialization of Resolution 4, 2024, Jim John Ken Properties, 87 Fairfield Road, Block 1202, Lot 23. This is a preliminary and final site plan C variance. So we have a motion for the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Perino.
Aye.
Mr. Palafonte.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Chairman Cafone.
Aye. Under old business, 4-2023, 372 Fairfield Road LLC, 372 Fairfield Road, Block 2701, Lot 3. This is a consent to carry to March 11, 2025. The letter is in our packet. Do we have a motion to
So
carry?
moved.
Second.
Steve, take the roll, please.
Oh, sorry about that. Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Spila.
Yes.
Mr. Perino.
Yes.
Mr. Palafonte.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Chairman Cafone.
Aye. Under new business, application 3-2024, Fairfield 47 Donuts, 397 Route 46, Block 3801, Lot 5. This is a new application.
Which one should I use? Doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Bernd Heffley on behalf of the applicant, 47 Donuts LLC. And this application is to add a drive-through to an existing Dunkin' Donuts at 397 Route 46 West. The property is a 40,000 square foot strip mall, basically, and the Dunkin' Donuts is a tenant at that property. Property's in the HD zone, and the sole purpose of the application is to add a drive-through to the side of the building to allow drive-through coffee pickup. The site has a number of non-conforming existing conditions that we are going to follow. We have 9x18 parking stalls at this strip mall, and we are reconfiguring the parking to some degree, and we will also be installing the 9x18 parking spaces, so that size will stay the same. We have a parking setback variance to the residential zone in the back that's non-conforming, but we're not changing that either, so that's an existing non-conforming condition. The impervious coverage, with what we're going to propose, we're actually going to add some green space to this property ultimately here, and the impervious coverage is actually going to go down at the site, so that's actually an improvement. And the property currently has, I don't know why, it's a big strip mall, but it doesn't have any loading zones on the property. But that condition, that non-conforming condition, we seek to keep also. And essentially, the whole property is a loading zone, if you will. So I don't really think there's an issue with regard to that. There are 3 variances with regard to this application that I think are noteworthy and are really driving the application. And those are the vehicle stacking. The ordinance requires 10, and we're proposing 6. And the drive-through lane is a 15-foot requirement, and we're proposing 10 based upon the geometry and configuration. And then there's also a variance for the signboard and ordering board being in the front of the property. But that's located here, sort of in the side yard, but it is the front yard. So that's a variance too. But really what this application is about is the traffic, the circulation, the queuing, and to make sure that we have a safe condition in terms of that. The drive-through Dunkin' Donuts is sort of, and your planner brings it out in his report very nicely. It's something that customers these days are looking for. It's an amenity that on a highway such as this is an appropriate place for a drive-through. And we think this one works nicely here and that there's consumer demand for that. So what I'd like to do is get our engineer up here and start talking about what we proposed. We got the review letters from your professionals, which were very detailed. We've looked at those and we've made some modifications to the site in terms of some exhibits that we're going to show you, modifications to what we actually submitted that we think address some of those comments in terms of circulation and safety and perhaps provide a better final result here. So with that being said, our professional engineer is Mike Fisher. You come on up here.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
Yes.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Michael David Fisher, F-I-S-H-E-R.
And you're an engineer?
Yes, I am.
All your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
And you've been qualified either before this board or other boards in
Other boards,
New
not this
Jersey?
board, though.
Mr. Chairman, the witness is
We accept your
sworn as an
credentials,
expert.
thank you.
Okay, so Mike, you designed the plans that were submitted as part of the application. You did all of the engineering, you received the review letters, you prepared the exhibits we're going to be using tonight, and you're the engineer on the application, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's run through the site and what we proposed as part of the submission.
I'd like to hand out to the board smaller copies of the
You want to mark that A1?
Yeah. So that's what is that, a colorized version of our submission, right?
It's a colorized version of submission, page 3 from the submission.
Okay.
That the only variation from what you have in the plan set versus what is on these is I took the time to demarc the actual unit, so that way it was a little bit more obvious to the board members as you were looking at this. Thank you. Okay. I'll give everybody a minute for that to pass around. So this application is, as Mr. Heavily pointed out, we're proposing a drive-through lane on the northwest side of the building. This is, for those that are not familiar with the site, this is the Walgreens Shopping Center, adjacent to Hollywood Avenue. Hollywood Avenue is over here on the side. It's just not included in the view of this plan. We're proposing a drive-through on the end unit tenant, which is the Dunkin', with a pickup window about a third of the way up from the front of the building, with a 6-car stack between the pickup window and the menu board at the end of the drive-through lane. We have a bypass lane adjacent to the drive-through lane. Both drive-through and bypass lanes are 10 feet apiece, and that's to promote circulation around the drive-through in the event that someone wants to get out of line and leave. what we're looking to do here is to restripe the existing parking lot to accommodate this drive-through lane. We're not looking to propose any improvements, any curbing or anything like that, because as everyone is aware, much of Fairfield is in the flood hazard area, and any fill that you add necessitates a flood hazard area permit. Specifically, in this case, it would be for a net fill. So we were trying to avoid that. So we went with leaving the pavement with what was submitted, leaving the pavement and kind of cross-hatching or cross-striping the gore areas that would not be driven on or parked across. And the site itself is illuminated. There's lighting on at each end of the building, pole-mounted lights. There are pole-mounted lights on the westerly parking lot. Actually, the pole stanchion is there, but the pole is no longer there. And then there's building-mounted lights all across the front of the building. This property has a handful of fire zones across it. There's a fire zone across the front of the Walgreens. From my understanding, the entire back of the building is considered a fire zone based on the striping. And then with regards to the parking itself, existing today, there are 225 parking spaces. With this application, we'd be reducing the number of parking spaces by 10. I know the plans indicate 9. That's an error on the plans. It's actually 10. So we would be down to 215 parking spaces. But in my different site visits, I've kind of come to realize that this parking lot doesn't often get used from what I've seen, nor has this parking lot ever really been full. So of my opinion, that the site itself has adequate parking and would be able to function with the negative 10 spaces.
Okay. Also, I think, so this property is located on the westbound lane of Route 46. There's some significance to that in terms of the use, right? Because it's a Dunkin' Donuts, and the peak volumes here of traffic, there's no morning rush at this property because it's in the westbound lane. So this Dunkin' Donuts is more of a all-day-long, slow-go operation. It doesn't have that morning peak rush. There's another Dunkin' Donuts not far away on the eastbound side that would, address that morning rush. But this piece of property, I think it is significant from a traffic and circulation and peak volume point of view that it's on the westbound lane. So now what we did also, we received, like I said, the review letters from your engineer and your planner, and also from the traffic department. So based upon those review letters, we sat down and we revised this a little bit, this original submission, to address those items and to, what I believe, substantially improve the circulation, the impervious, and all of the traffic movement. So let's move on to that, Mike.
So we're going to move on to A2. I'll mark this as A2. And again, I'll hand out individual copies.
Now, this is a new exhibit. We haven't submitted it,
This
so.
is dated today. This is an exhibit specifically for the hearing. And again, I'll pass this around.
It wasn't provided 10 days before the hearing?
No, because we were working on this, so this is just an exhibit for tonight's meeting. And we want to review this with the board. And if this exhibit, which I believe, is a good exhibit and works well for this site, if it works, we'll engineer it, submit it, a revised set of plans to your professionals, and then come back for the approval of that. So this is just an exhibit for discussion purposes. So, go ahead, Mike.
All right, so generally speaking, the configuration is about the same. One thing that we took note of was the driveway width was noted as being substandard. We had a 10-foot wide driveway. The ordinance requires 15. Could not adequately fit two 15-foot wide driveways. So I increased it to 12 feet for each driveway. which provided adequate turning movements in and through both lanes. And what I did was I extended the bypass lane to be completely parallel to the drive-through lane, giving some options to any vehicles that might pull up to where the menu board is, assuming that we're fully stacked with 6 vehicles between the drive-through window, or the pickup window, and the menu board. That would give the vehicle waiting an opportunity to make a left-hand turn, enter this green circular pattern, and they could circle back around and either leave or queue themselves up at that point.
So the circular loop, in describing it, it's almost as if it's a relief valve, if you will, to the queuing if in fact the queue is full, right?
Correct. There were some concerns between, I believe, the engineer's letter and the traffic department's letter, indicating that cars would be backing up across the front of the property and both impacting vehicles that might be backing out of these spaces here, as well as becoming a hazard for any vehicles that might be backing out of these spaces facing Route 46. So what we did was we put a fire zone, no parking area across the front of the entrance, the entrance throat. So that's this rectangular area in front of where the menu board is, and it would be the last vehicle in queue would be. And then what we also did, and Mr. Hefferly has pointed out, is to create a proper buffer between the drive-through lanes, the bypass lanes, and any vehicles that are parked. We added, again, I noted before, because of the fill conditions and the flood hazard area, couldn't add curb. But what we did was we reduced the impervious coverage by taking out that cross-hatched paved area. We're going to remove that pavement and we're going to put lawn in, and with possibly some sort of landscape features. And we lined all of the parking spaces with curb bumpers. And also lining both the bypass lane and the drive-through lane are bollards to create a channelized area for vehicles to enter and exit without any concern of other vehicles unnaturally entering that area.
So we have the green space in front of the parking areas, right? Where the bollards, where the wheel stops are located.
Yes.
We have that green space, and then we've added the green space down bottom also at the entrance there.
Correct.
Right.
And again, one of the other things that was in the fire department's letter is they wanted demarcations for fire zones. So what I did was, in addition to this area, I added a fire zone here. There's ample room between these parking spaces backing out and this 5-foot wide fire zone that we're well above the 24-foot minimum. So that's not an issue either.
Okay, so now, also explain for the board how the queuing works in terms of the, at Dunkin's, the menu board versus the pickup window.
So you pull up here, you place your order, and assuming you're the first person in line, right? And you got a line of cars coming behind you. You're the first person in line, you place your order, that probably takes maybe a minute or two. And then once you're done, you're gonna drive up to the window. And then you now have space for 5 vehicles behind you. 5 vehicles behind you, 6 in total, to queue up from window to board. And then as far as the timing for that goes, that's a Dunkin' standard that I'm not privileged to. I don't know what that number is, but
I think the.
3 minutes?
All right.
You can.
Stop. All right. I think the important point here is, and to understand this, is that the pickup window is much slower than the order window. And what ends up happening as a result of the pickup window taking more time than the order window is that the queuing doesn't happen out here. The queuing happens in here because this is the longer time frame, is the pickup window. So if I order, I go there, the next guy goes, the next guy. So that's why these cars are shown in here in this queue, because of the time differential between ordering and pickup.
Do you
And I
want me
think
to?
that's important.
Should I swear you in as the expert?
We can have the client come up and tell you the same thing, and maybe we should do that. So, Jackie, why don't
Well, you want to wait? You
or
can
whoever
bring him
wants to
later?
testify with regard to-
You want to wait and bring
Yeah,
him later?
Why don't we wait?
Yeah, we can, let us go through the rest of it, explain it, and then we'll put you up there. All right, that's a good idea. So, anyway, that's important in terms of the queuing. And then, again, this loop design that we put in here, we did it together. I'm sort of happy about this whole thing because I was a part of it. But as a practical matter, I come here and I can't get in. I can loop around, I can take another look, I could loop around again. I could loop around 3 times till this thing is ultimately open, or I could loop around once and say I'm done with it and go somewhere else. But effectively, there will never be a queuing backup as a result of this, and with this no parking zone here. So I think that, little modification, it goes a long way to addressing the safety and traffic concerns of the engineer and the police department.
So
One
could
other
I ask a
point.
question?
Yeah.
I have one other thing, if I might.
Sure, go right ahead.
I mentioned parking, and we needed a variance for the parking because we were deficient, or we reduced the number of parking. As a result of this, to add this loop in, it came at the expense of 1 additional parking space. So now we've reduced it by 11 from existing conditions as opposed to 10. What's required for this site, based on the numbers, is 218. We're currently proposing 215. This would be 214, so we'd be deficient by 4.
So the variance is 4 parking
Yes.
spaces. Okay.
So I have maybe 2 questions. I know you said you went out to the site and most of the time it's empty where you're proposing all that. Can you tell me what time you went out to that site?
It was in the evening.
Okay. If you go there from 11 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can't even park over there. That strip mall is packed
Okay.
because of the stores that are in there. Besides the Dunkin' Donuts, I'm sure they'll all tell us about Il Clasico. It's just mobbed because the other end is a big pharmacy, Walgreens.
Yes.
You have a few people that go in and out of there. It's not really a very busy store, so to speak, all the time. But they take the spots that are across from it and some of them that are right in front. But the whole rest of this property, the parking is always to the right. Parking to the left is empty. You're right, absolutely. But the parking to the right, that's where everybody parks because the stores that they want to go to, the Dunkin' Donuts, the bagel shop, the deli, that's where they park. That's just number 1. Now, number 2, I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donuts, okay? That first car's at the kiosk there. I'm next. You think I'm going to loop around and keep looping until I can get in that spot? No, I'm going to pull up right behind that car, right?
No, you're not, because there's a no parking zone there.
Oh, and you're going to be there to police it?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
No,
so, I mean, we've all been there, right? We've all seen these things, how they work, okay? It doesn't matter what color the hash marks are, whether it says no this or that. It's a parking lot. So I'm gonna pull up, now I'm gonna be there. Now, I'm making a left turn, so now I already have the lane coming out blocked. John's coming for coffee behind me. Not even the stacking at the pickup window. What about the stacking at this?
The kiosk.
At the kiosk? There's not any room for stacking at all.
That's why we have the bypass lane.
Oh, then why even spend the money? Because if I'm gonna pull up and I just gotta keep looping around, and that's not what we want in a parking lot, cars looping around in a circle with people crossing and everything else. It's, I don't know, you have a traffic expert that would testify that that's?
Yeah, that was my question. Did you guys, you didn't do a traffic survey? You didn't have a traffic expert do this?
No is the answer. No, we did not.
So as you look at the parkings and you put the big box for no parking and there's obviously going to be cars parked along the property line on that side. I mean, they're going to have to back out of their spots while somebody's waiting to queue and get at the menu board. What is the distance between the two-way parking there?
24 feet.
24? I mean, I would agree with the gentleman up here and say between 11 and 2, you can't get near this building. It's hard to, because there's multiple tenants here. There's, you know, this is accommodating just the Dunkin' Donuts. It's not accommodating El Clasico, bagel shop. There's a sushi place, there's a Chinese restaurant, there's a Spanish restaurant. There's many food places here. And being that Fairfield's such an industrial area, lunchtime in this town is the most crowded time in this town during the week.
The other thing is, my wife decides to take the grandkids and go to Dunkin' Donuts. She wants to go inside. Now she's gonna park over on the, along the, property line or in the back. She's walking through a parking lot. Look how far she's gotta walk to come all the way around to get to the stores.
And you want to walk through the grass.
And you're walking in traffic.
Well, I would say that that's what happens today.
Well, not necessarily, because this is parking here. You walk
You may not be walking through
one
grass.
one lane.
I
You're
would-
walking over one lane, correct? The lane between the building and the cars that are on an angle, you're correct. But now, I can't even do that anymore. I have to walk, if I'm in the back of the building on the side, I gotta walk all the way around the front of the grass area, and then,
No, there's a crosswalk in there.
You're
but you're
proposing a
walking through the
crosswalk
grass.
through the queue,
Grass.
Yes.
I don't see
And
it.
through the queue.
through the queue.
Where?
That
Oh,
white stripe.
that
The
walk.
white,
So how are you getting across the grass?
We're listening to all your comments. I get it.
Okay.
I get
And
it.
you're gonna walk between the queue, and that car's not gonna be on that walk because it's striped, right?
Look.
No, I'm just throwing it
understand that
out
things
there.
in the field happen differently than on the engineering plans.
Right.
I understand it, and I'm not gonna tell you that you're wrong. So, however, you know, if a drive-through is going to, happen at this location, at this Dunkin', it needs to be located on that side of the building.
Absolutely.
And in terms of the queuing of that, I believe it makes more sense to have, you know, this loop than it does to try to queue these cars out in front of the building, because that's not gonna work at all.
Well,
But
that,
they're-
in my
but they're gonna
opinion,
be
that's
parked
what's
there.
gonna happen anyway.
Even if they don't block your box, right? Let's say I don't pull into your box. I'm just gonna sit here and wait and wait and wait. That car pulls up, I pull up. Now there's another car. So now we're queued in front of the spaces that are along 46, right?
Just so I understand, you believe that all these cars are just gonna queue up
Yes.
this?
Yes,
yeah.
1,000%.
I understand what you're saying.
yes. Is it,
That's where they're
the way
gonna
it
come in,
works.
that's where they're gonna come in from.
Go down to the Dunkin' Donuts on Route 46 East, okay? Not the one in Fairfield. Go to the one in Little Falls. Go by there in the morning and take a look at what it looks like with the cars parked, with the cars all the way out to 46.
On the shoulder.
So let me ask a different question.
Sure.
So your ordinance requires queuing for 10 cars?
10.
That's what it
Right.
requires. If in fact, we move this order window over here, and we queue up these cars around this way, we can put 10 in there. That's possible. If you believe that that's a better queuing, we're happy to do that.
I'm not gonna design the site.
No, I'm just saying,
I'm just saying it doesn't work for me right now.
Okay, I understand. So that's why we're here, to discuss this, because we want it to be safe as much as you do. So we want to satisfy this board. We're not here to argue with you.
Right.
I want to talk to you about it. So the other option, obviously, it can get queued out here, and we can come in this way and put the order board here,
Queue it out there.
and we can get 10 cars in here.
How are you gonna queue it out there?
You're gonna make a turn?
You're gonna make a complete
Yeah, so
U-turn.
the turn would be right here. I mean, that turn can be made. So we could do that.
Does Dunkin' Donuts have traffic people? I know that they have the double signs and then the two rows go into one.
Yes.
Have you talked to that? Has anyone looked at this from Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah. So Dunkin' Donuts, you know, they obviously have architects that they use. They're all third-party people. They don't have anybody on staff for this. This is simply a franchisor. So they obviously have standards for their store, architecturals and whatnot, right? But these are third parties. So, I mean, in terms of having a traffic expert testify to the safety of this, I'm happy to do that. Not a problem. But I think the design here is, you know, what we're talking about. And we can queue up the 10 differently, right in front, across the front, and go in that way if you believe that that loop design is not desirable.
Well, let me,
But
can I
that's
ask a
in front of
question?
a fire zone too. That would be in front of the fire zone.
What's that?
That would be in front of the fire zone,
Yes.
which is in the front there. I don't think you could do that in front of a fire zone.
Let me ask a question. Looking at your interior floor plan, obviously this window location is the most conducive to the store because you have the space to do it there.
Right.
There's no way to push the window back to allow more queuing on the building side and maybe not make that turn?
So,
Because I think the loop, to their point, there's no way to orchestrate someone to say, okay, you go around the loop until all of a sudden your turn's up. And I'm a Dunkin' Donuts guy. I hit them all the time.
yeah,
It sounds great, but you know, so do unicorns and cupcakes. I mean, you know, it's not real, right? It sounds good and it looks good on paper, but
Yeah.
there, if you had a cop there, you wouldn't be able to facilitate that.
yeah, I don't disagree with
No,
you.
and I appreciate the creativity. I get
Comment
it.
is good. So, I mean, it is architecturally extremely difficult to put this window back here. Now, I mean, we could look at that with our architect a little bit closer. Obviously, if we put the window in the back, we can queue up all the 10 cars right in there. So, and then we would be in compliance. But we'd have to take a look at that with our architect, and it sounds like that's what the board would be most in favor of.
I think the way you have it now, it's like they said before, I mean, it's packed there
Yeah.
during this window of time
Yep,
every day.
yep.
And this would just be literally unsafe. It'd be a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, not only for Dunkin' Donuts, but for the other tenants as well. I mean, you know, you have to be considerate of all parties involved, so to speak.
Yep. Well, so then, you know, I mean, obviously, the rest of the stuff, I mean, this is the jugular part of this application. So we can go back, to the drawing board and submit a revision that shows all of the queuing along here, provided I can get the architect to tell me that that works inside the building. And come back with that. That would, you know, remove this loop and provide some more space actually. And I don't think we're gonna end up with a parking variance anymore.
The old raceway, the midget raceway.
So I think, you know, in just talking to the engineer, if we redesign this and queue up our 10 in here, it's probably actually gonna be more than 10. It'll also do away with the parking variance. The property will be properly parked.
So
What
you're
about
saying
the
that
sta-
the order point would be further up, past the,
Yep.
the walkway to walk across?
Ideally, the menu board would be somewhere in the area adjacent to the corner of the building. In the area of
And
the
then your
crosswalk.
pickup would be further down?
Further
Right.
back, as far back as possible.
And I have another question. On A1, you have a one-way in the back.
Yes.
And on the second one, it looks like it's two-way, but I don't know if it's two-way all the way, or is it one-way just in that one section on the?
Correct. The intent behind the plan was we were reversing the traffic flow in this area here. Currently, the way the building functions, delivery traffic, truck traffic, comes in through the front, loops around, does their delivery, and then they exit out in this direction. We were asked, in communicating with the landlord, to change that to avoid any kind of condition where, this is where they were envisioning similar conditions as the board, where a truck would pull in across the front and then be stalled there until they could continue making that turnaround. In this instance, if it happened, they would be stopped here until they can continue through. But what happened was, this should have remained two-way traffic behind the building where the parking spaces are, and then just one way in the area here.
So you really couldn't get out from the back?
From here?
Yeah.
Here, you would exit out this way.
No, the other way.
Correct. There'd
You wouldn't be
signs-
able to get out.
There'll be signs that say do not enter.
So you only go to where the
jog is.
garbage disposal is, then you'd have to make a U-turn to get out if you wanted to.
Yes,
That
but
would complicate it.
Ideally, you'd be back there because you're parking. So if you're gonna exit, you're gonna pull in, you're gonna park in a parking space, and then
But what about delivery trucks?
Doesn't that complicate it more?
The delivery truck comes in off of 46 West,
So
loops
there's-
around the side of the building, gets to the back of the building, makes their delivery. Now they have to turn around to go back out that same exit that they entered as opposed, because it's a one-way to go out to Hollywood.
Correct. So
Wow.
what happened was we put up signs indicating that truck traffic should continue on to Hollywood Avenue, and that truck traffic would then exit on 46.
So you get a sign that says all deliveries, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're pushing the deliveries onto Hollywood Avenue to come in Hollywood and go out 46.
Yes.
So you're reversing the one-way that's in the back.
Just across this throat right here.
Yeah, because that's the one-way going the opposite way.
So you only go to this point,
Turn around.
that's it,
By
yeah.
putting
this drive-through there, technically, how many spaces are we losing on that side of the building?
13.
That's all?
It's a lot.
But once we reconfigure this, the site,
I'm sorry, 10. Losing 10.
I'm losing 10 spaces, that's
Yes.
all?
Yes.
No, you said 11, right?
It will be 11.
No, I'm sorry, existing now, how many?
How many spots are
That's what I'm
on that
asking.
side of the building?
Currently back here, there are 22 parking spaces. On the side here, there's another 37. So we have combined
No, what do we have on the side?
a net difference of 10 spaces. Because what we're doing is, spaces are angled here, these parking spaces here are angled. We're reconfiguring them so that way we can optimize the space, get a couple extra parking spaces.
People are expected to park at the back of the building
And walk to the front.
and walk all the way to the front to get into a store, any restaurant, or whatever.
Parking spaces were there today, so we
Yes,
just-
but there
we
were also
optimized what
more
was
on
there.
the side of the building, which is more than half the distance closer.
More than likely, those parking spaces will be occupied by workers,
The back spaces.
yes.
So I'm going again, the spaces that are on the side of the building, this plan calls for a loss of how many?
And we're gonna keep the.
So to get back to the stacking, isn't the stacking from the first point, from the kiosk? It's not from where you pick it up at the window.
No, that's,
According to Duncan
that's
standards, it's
incorrect.
from the
Well, yeah, but,
pickup window.
but we gotta go by the standards of
real life.
the land, right? Land standards, not Duncan standards.
No, here's the, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, this is just the
Go ahead.
truth. So the point of the matter is the ordering window, it's a quick thing, it takes 30 seconds, you order it. Then when you drive, you go to the pickup window, they take your money, they do the transaction, they hand you the coffee. It's a much slower procedure. So the queuing and the stacking is actually, the slowest part of the operation is the pickup. So the cars back up from the pickup window.
I understand that.
So
I understand that, but we still have an issue with ordering.
Right.
You still have to have stacking for the ordering.
But the queuing, your requirement to be able to queue up 10 cars, we'll be able to comply with that.
I don't know that you will.
Well, I'll push the order window up far enough that I can.
Oh.
We can definitely do it, it's just a matter of how you want to
You know what I
design it.
think we need here? I think we need a traffic expert on your side.
We will, most certainly can come back with a traffic expert, but, you know, I wanted to see the board's,
You know, I just, because, listen,
this
I
application.
understand where you're coming from, and I know you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no,
But-
nobody wants to
But,
create a problem.
but here's the thing. You're gonna have cars stacked trying to order. I don't care if it's 30 seconds, if they can't move up because he's making a sandwich or somebody, a breakfast sandwich for somebody, where the car's going? They're stacked into the lane. So now this tractor trailer that's trying to get through can't get through because this is all blocked up. These cars can't get out because it's all blocked up. I don't understand the circulation.
Jim, it doesn't address it completely, but I thought you said you were gonna move the ordering board, the
window up.
menu board up to the corner of the building.
Which would be like 4
which would be
cars
like
up.
4 cars in.
Well, then you don't have the stacking.
But you've got 4 cars rather than no cars.
I understand that.
So real quick,
But apparently it's gonna take too long
No, I
to serve
agree,
the
it's still,
food.
I agree, it's still an
It would be
issue.
better, but I don't think it's great.
Okay, I'm not a traffic expert, and nor is anybody else here, and it's my fault for not bringing one. So I will address traffic safety with a traffic expert at the next meeting, along with a redesign of this queuing and pickup. And I think that's where we are. I think I've heard all of the comments, I understand it. It's clear you're not gonna approve it the way it
Excuse me
is.
one more moment. I count on your existing plan, page 2, 30 spaces in the middle.
Okay?
Your A2 shows 11, I think. So that's 19 spaces we're losing on the side of the building. Not 10.
But we're also picking up,
Okay, but I'm talking about the specific section
I
that's right
misunderstood
there
you,
in the
I
middle.
apologize.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question. Did the landlord notice all the other tenants that the Dunkin' Donuts wanted to put this window? Do you know of?
Did the landlord
Notice all the other tenants that know that may
No.
be affected by this?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. I asked a couple of the tenants, no,
Tenants.
nobody knew,
Right.
nobody even knew that this was
but
coming
the-
before
So
the
just
board.
one more quick thing. So only as thinking like the landlord. So he wants to accommodate one particular tenant at the expense of all the other tenants. That's how I understand it.
I don't, look, I think, the landlord is the owner of the property.
Yes.
I don't know what his leases look like. I'm not sure what he's allowed to do or not allowed to do. But the other tenants, if they have enforceable rights and under their lease with regard to this, then shame on the landlord for not noticing that. Because they're gonna come to him and tell him, listen, you're in breach of your lease. So, that is something that's not part of the planning review of this application.
I understand that, but just from going to the site myself for
Yep.
lunch and, a couple times a week, I know that part of the parking lot
Yeah.
is the busiest part of the parking lot
Okay,
throughout
so
the
but-
whole property.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're not gonna change the existing parking. What you have there today is what you will get after the application is done. We're no harm, no foul, whatever the number of cars are that are out, parking spaces that are out there now is what we will provide again. So that's that. We will provide the queuing for the 10 cars, we'll move the pickup window, and that will address the requirement for 10. We'll work through that. And we will keep the parking, there will be no loss of parking, we'll show up the queuing, and we'll have a traffic expert here to testify as to the safety of the entire project. I think that's the way to go.
I think the other problem is the problem in the back of the building where you're blocked up, where if a car goes in there, they have to either back up to get out, or they have to make a circular turn.
We'll have the
I think
traffic
that's an
expert-
issue, too.
We'll have him address that also. I understand the concern. We'll do that too. None of it can happen here tonight. So we have to go back, we have to make some modifications. We'll get the traffic expert to look at this. He may have some additional input for modifications, we'll see. And then we will come back with a redesigned plan that's closer to the ordinance requirements.
Yeah, I just want to say, to your point, I know you're going to push these tractor trailers around the jug handle to cross over Hollywood, where kids are on bicycles, and there's a lot going on that I think you really got to advise your traffic person to be mindful, because I got to be honest, that'd be a tough pill to swallow, to put big trucks, force them onto Hollywood across that intersection when, summertime, there's kids on bicycles all day long going up and down and over that bridge, and, that'd be a real tough one for me.
Maybe we will keep the circulation the way it is. Okay, so, I think that's it for
So
tonight.
you'll consent, you wanna carry this and
Yes.
give us all
Yeah.
waivers of,
Yep,
and extensions?
And, we'll give you an extension of time for another 60 days or so.
And any, additional submissions need to be at least 10
Yep,
days?
not a problem.
The experts have to be able to review it.
Yep. I think, look, it was important for us, look, we got a lot of good feedback here, I understand where the board is at with this application, I understand what we're up against, so I think it was a good meeting, and, we'll be back. Thank you very much.
So,
What's the next meeting date? March
You
11th?
have a motion to carry with all extensions.
So,
and-
we can get carried to
I
the
don't know
March
if we-
11th meeting then, right?
So we have a motion to.
Steve, what's the next meeting date?
Yeah,
Okay.
they should, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna, have a motion to carry to March 11th
With all extensions.
with all extensions.
Yep, thank you.
Could I have a motion?
They should have been notified.
All in favor?
You would think that
Aye.
somebody.
And we're gonna
If you
carry
could just
it.
send like a small letter
Yeah.
agreeing to the,
Yeah,
carrying
yeah,
the motion and request.
And obviously, we're carrying the notice, right?
Yes.
If you want, we have a form letter. We'll email it to you.
Yeah.
Even if you have the tractor trailer coming in, there's not enough weight. And then
So we have
comes in this way.
some
How's
other
it gonna-
business.
Yeah, let me get this agenda.
Ordinances.
Okay, gentlemen. Under discussion items, we have an ordinance 2025-4, an ordinance of the Township of Fairfield amending Chapter 42, Section 10 of the Township Code entitled Stormwater Control. Can you just?
In 2000, I apologize, I think 2021 DEP required the township to do major revisions to our stormwater control ordinance. They've come back with another required change. These are mainly of technical requirements, but they imposed it on, that the township had to pass them. So the council introduced it, and they're just, and just with the land use ordinance, it's been referred to the planning board for any comment.
Do we need to take any action on this?
It's actually, if I may.
Yeah.
It's a consistency review under under the municipal land use law. Any amendment to the development regulations of municipality must be referred to the planning board for an evaluation as to how it impacts the master plan and to identify any inconsistencies. And then you need to make a finding that the ordinance is not inconsistent or is inconsistent, and then lay out why you think that. Then the council has a procedure to deal with that. We don't have to get into that. But, you know, to comply with NJDEP regulations and to update and upgrade your stormwater management ordinance is clearly in sync with the master plan, because Fairfield has always had a longstanding history of concern over flooding and stormwater. So there's no inconsistencies from my perspective, unless the board, you know, finds something. But I wanted to just get that on the record.
Thank you. Do we need to take any action on this, or is just discussion?
You have to agree that it is consistent with the master plan and send it back to the municipality, to the code house.
So can we have a vote to agree that it's consistent with the master plan? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Spila.
Yes.
Mr. Pareno.
Aye.
Mr. Palafante.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Mr. Cafone.
Aye. Next, under discussion, ordinance, an ordinance to amend various fees contained in the code of the Township of Fairfield. Steve, just want to talk about this?
Sure. In a review, there's a lot of fees, and it's been referred to you again via some, but not all, that were introduced by the council the other night for revision are contained in the land use ordinance. So same thing as the stormwater ordinance. In short, a lot of the fees no longer come close to covering the cost the township incurs to issue permits, zoning permits, but also land use fees and for the application fees. We did extensive review in our office to both do our best to estimate the staff time and cost on that, and also back-checked it on, you know, what is a norm for other towns.
So
in the
they're
state.
consistent with other towns of our size and
Yes.
population?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
in the area? Okay. So do we have a motion, do we need to do a motion and vote on this also, correct?
Yes.
We have a motion to agree with these variance fees.
So moved.
Palafante,
Second.
the mayor?
Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Spila.
Yes.
Mr. Pareno.
Aye.
Mr. Palafante.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Chairman Cafone.
Aye. Under miscellaneous, approval of the bills for Peter King, invoice number 95051, 95066. For Bowman, and invoice number 454155. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Mayor and Mr. Gasparini?
Mayor Galise.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparini.
Aye.
Councilman LaForgia.
Aye.
Mr. Spila.
Yes.
Mr. Pareno.
Aye.
Mr. Palafante.
Aye.
Mr. Dutcher.
Aye.
Chairman Cafone.
Aye.
The New Jersey Planning Codes.
Yeah, that's it. Any other comments from the board before we close?
I just have a question on the Dunkin' Donuts. Did they have to notify everybody within 200 feet?
So the issue.
Property owners, not the land, not the tenants.
So it's the same thing with apartment complexes. The
Right.
owner of that apartment complex will be noticed, but each individual tenant.
So the
will-
owner's gonna be notified, he's the owner.
Well, the owner
but
had
he
to
doesn't,
give-
he doesn't
Yeah,
tell
the
his
owner
tenants,
gave
or he
consent
doesn't have
for
to.
them to come
right?
here.
The owner is the applicant. They're applying for their property, so he
They're
has
not
to.
the owner of the building, they're the owner of
Yeah, but the owner has to
Give them
consent to
consent,
it.
yeah.
Right,
So he had, the 200 feet is around that property. So
Right.
whatever, the homes in the back, the Goodwill
But
next
not
door,
his
whatever
other
next door.
tenants?
Not, the tenants don't
No.
own the property, they're just
Okay.
tenants.
Just the property owner.
No different than if, in an apartment complex.
Is it possible to put something into play where we would notify tenants for something like that? Wouldn't,
They have no standing.
Not our, they couldn't do anything about it.
The only issue is sometimes in leases, there's certain restrictions on what you can have in strip malls, so that he could theoretically get an approval, and then those tenants would take him to court.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.